Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Great to be with you. Hope you're doing well on this Ballsmic Wednesday. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything. If you do miss something, we got you covered all 3 hours. Get posted upon the conclusion of the show every day, both on iTunes and in our own audio vault. That's a great thing. Email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameronshow. WTSM app on your mobile devices. And you can watch us perform the duties, if you will, on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in ESPN Tallahassee. How are we, Tom, on the stream? Could be a busy day on the Jeff Cameron Show. We have some people with some concerns. It's hopefully coming up. Now would not be the time for that, right? I think we're okay.
Seems to be fine. I'll go take a look just in case.
Let's take a look. Let's get a hold of that sucker.
Because of course.
Yeah, because of course is right. Well, obviously, guys, it's been 48 hours now. Really, 24. It's starting to heat up big time again with the situation in which we continue to hear the rumors, the mounting rumors that Jimbo Fisher is almost certainly going to take the Texas A&M job. And I can just tell you that everybody I have spoken to today, many of whom I consider to be great sources, and in fact, whenever I have even any doubts about what they're hearing, I withhold. But I do feel comfortable telling you today that it does sound an awful lot like this is basically a done deal, that he is going to go to Texas A&M. Now, it isn't 100% official. And I'm sure there is a very small percentage, maybe a very small window, where if you'd like to come back or stay, I should say, he hasn't left yet, and stay, that he could. But it does. I'll give you my personal opinion on this here. And to me, we've reached a place where it's too far down the tracks. And I think, for those of you that have ever left a job before, or have contemplated leaving a job, and, all the stuff that leads to that moment, there are a lot of moments in your mind spent, between your ears, just thinking and vetting and really going over all the scenarios. And if you get to a place where you are seriously considering leaving the group you work for, taking another job, and you've begun to entertain that in your mind, and it's something that you are seriously considering, the longer that goes on, the less likely you are certainly to stay where you're at or to feel compelled to stay where you're at because you begin to see only the reasons to leave. I don't know what Jimbo Fisher is currently thinking. I know he's at practice. I know that it's probably a very tumultuous time for him and his agent and others surrounding him, close to him. But my personal opinion is we may have gone too far down the tracks. And, Tom, let's start with this. Why don't we start with something that occurred yesterday that we didn't get a chance to talk about. Yesterday, just as we were signing over to Seminole Headlines, an article in the Tallahassee Democrat was posted, and it was a Jim Henry piece in which there were several quotes that very much interested me. And they were from President Thrasher. Now, also the personal dynamics at play in the Jimbo Fisher decision, as the article notes, interested me as well. Obviously, Andy Miller doesn't do a lot of interviews, doesn't give a lot of quotes. So when you see his name and read his quotes, you certainly pay attention. It lets you know that the rubber has met the road, and it has garnered some attention, and people are ready to now talk on the record about some of these things, or that we had reached a place where it was unavoidable. Thrasher said this about the situation, that, quote, there's always personal dynamics in play in these situations. And he went on to say some other things that I thought were very, very interesting. And it had more to do with the fact that the structure they had in place at Florida State between the boosters as the fundraising arm of Florida State's athletics, quote, has been in place since the boosters were founded. It has served us well. I don't see any issues that reasonable adults could not work through. How many football coaches have we had in the last 40 years? That was, to me, a public admonishment of Jimbo Fisher. That was him letting you know where he stood. He happened to be Jimbo Fisher's greatest advocate just 2 weeks prior, stating that Jimbo was great and could be here for as long as he wanted to be and that he loved him, basically. To then come out and say what he said yesterday told me that Jimbo was attempting to force the issue. Obviously, it's a power play to gain control of the money and how it's spent, how it's used, at least to have greater control of it or say. And this was the retort, which was to say, no. And it's public. It's a little humiliating, I would think, in the moment. And so that went a long way in me thinking that this was as good as over with. When President Thrasher, spoke publicly on the issue and said that his belief is that the way the boosters are set up and have been set up for all these years is fine.
As we were presenting, both sides of the argument on Monday, and I think that's what we spent a large portion of the show really doing was, all right, if you're in Jimbo's camp, this is what you're contending. If you're in the boosters' camp, here's what you're contending. And in describing those two sides of the argument, we knew that given the way this has all gone, and this is all in the reports too, depending upon which publication you're following, Jimbo's appealing to John Thrasher behind the scenes as all of these negotiations are going on. Again, Coach wasn't holding out for a higher salary. He's holding out for maybe keys to the vault, so to speak, or the facility, the standalone facility is what we all talk about as the thing of the now. But he wanted the process to change. He wants the process to change of the hierarchy and how the money is spent,
and
which
who's
is
in control of it and how
correct.
It gets spent. And yes,
but his ace in the hole, so to speak,
the president of the university,
correct, just
sided with his enemy
publicly. Yeah. In the Tallahassee paper.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So at that point, when you read that, you instantly know what side of the argument John Thrasher is on and where he is siding. And so it really, I don't know how you come back from that short of doing so with your tail between your legs, which is not exactly Jimbo Fisher-like.
He's about winning rings, not kissing them. Yes.
So I thought we were done here at that point. I thought this is likely over. Now, we've learned an awful lot in the last few years as money and salaries have gotten out of control in college football. And we've had that discussion and what it means for college football and or the student athlete for a long time. So I'm not going down that road currently. We've said, hey, if you'd like to see something different and you are disgusted by what's happened with big-time college football, that's fine. You can go watch the Ivy League. But that ship has sailed. So here's the deal. You know enough to know that nothing ever really seems to be over, even when it appears to be, right? So is there a chance that this gets worked out somehow, some way, and Coach Fisher remains as the head coach at Florida State? Yes, there is a possibility that that happens. It does not, from where I'm sitting here today, seem all that likely. In fact, it seems almost assuredly highly, highly unlikely. And what we're hearing is that Coach Fisher certainly would like to stay on to coach this final game. My guess is that he feels indebted to the kids that he recruited, the kids that he's coached this year. Now, listen, you can roll your eyes. You can say, well, that's fine. Great. Glad he feels that way. Have a good one. Sorry, you're taking another job, and it's time for us to all move on and for us to part ways. No hard feelings, but no, you're not sticking around. It's not advantageous to anybody involved in this situation. So thanks. Give your speech to the locker room, hug who you need to hug, and have a good day. We're done. Or you could put to a vote to the team. You could say, how about the players decide? How do they feel about Jimbo Fisher, who is now perhaps taking another job? Let's say they find out he is, in fact, taking the Texas A&M job. Do you give them the vote and allow him to stay on and coach this game. There are a lot of things that would seem wrong about allowing him to stay on to coach this final game. But one thing I am for certain about, and this is one of the admirable qualities of Jimbo Fisher that I have repeatedly noted, I do think he really wants to stay and coach these kids in this final game because, and I mean it from a good place, Tom, I really do. I've got all kinds of problems with the things that he has said and done this year and some things that he's done from a coaching standpoint this year. But I do think he loves the kids, and I think he feels like he should be here through the end of the regular season to coach this final game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. But let's establish the fact that this is his last game. Can you do that for us? Can you establish the fact that Saturday is your final game so we can move the hell on? Because we got to know, man. It's Wednesday. Let's go. This has been a news cycle that has dragged on far too long.
Here's the other reason it's important, because enough stuff has already leaked out about the potential candidates for the replacement of Jimbo Fisher, and those guys also have jobs, and they also will not want to be used, and they don't certainly want to have their reputation sullied at their current institution. So if they're interested, they are only going to note that interest through their agent, in this case Jimmy Sexton or whomever it is that is representing them, and they're going to do it behind the scenes with a wink, wink, nod, nod, tell them I'll take the job. We're not dragging this out. I've got a job that I'm happy at, doing well at, am recruiting towards, and don't want to screw this up in the process of considering this other position, because as we certainly know, as we sit here today, people frown upon that. People in the administration, big-time boosters, and certainly fans don't like when their school is being used or is thought of as a stepping stone or not good enough. So those coaches are very mindful of that, those that would be in consideration for the Florida State job. And on that note, repeatedly, we have hinted at this. It is certainly understood by now. Willie Taggart is most assuredly a candidate for this job, or somebody that Florida State University would look at. I, for one, think he's a great candidate. Everywhere he's been has quickly turned and gone the right direction, whether it's Western Kentucky, whether it's South Florida, and now he's in his first year at Oregon, and already they're on the verge of having their first ever top 5 recruiting class. His last 21 games at UCF, he was 17-4. Turned that totally around. Relatable to the kids, 41 years old, from Florida, played quarterback, is beloved by high school coaches throughout the state, would instantly give us Tampa back. All the reasons that I think he'd be a great candidate. He's also multiple, malleable, changed offenses, even in the midst of his time at USF. So I like that candidate. He's not the only candidate. There are other names, and that's where it gets interesting, because I don't think any of them wants to be played against the other. So time is of the essence. When we come back, Gene Williams, WarChant.com, going to join us.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Neese Tire and Auto Service. Neese has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. Long wait. Neese Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Neese Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, 574-4100.
Landowners, only Mahindra, the makers of the toughest utility vehicles on earth, can give you the best year-end deal on earth. So let us show you how to get tax savings on your new Mahindra XTV and get cash back and savings up to $2,500 on select clearance models. Plus, get a free roof and Mahindra's 3-year warranty.
I'm talking tough, like a state of mind. Tough like a soldier on the front line. Tough when it gets rough, like my Ford truck. Always enough, I'm talking tough.
Franklin Spring Creek Ford, the place to find your next truck in southern Georgia.
I'm talking tough.
Hey y'all, we're Chris and Preston from Low Cash. Head to Franklin Spring Creek Ford and see them about all of your vehicle needs.
Sorry, boys, I did not have time to pack.
We got this.
It's right here, guys.
We got this.
I thought I could handle it.
We got this.
Moving doesn't have to be a hassle. Call us first at 2 Men and a Truck. No matter the move, home or business, we'll make it a smooth one.
I forgot something.
We got this.
High School Scholar Athlete of the Month, Leon's Parker Powell is now qualified as a finalist for the Dale Jr. $2,500 End-of-the-Year Scholarship. To help support our friends at Dale Jr., check them out on the corner of Capitol Circle Northeast and Miccosukee or by visiting online at Dale Earnhardt Jr. BuickGMC-Cadillac.com.
Today, when you buy any golf cart at TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, they will deliver it to you for free. Yes, free delivery within a 50-mile radius of Thomasville and TNT Supercenter. This means you, Tallahassee, and you too, Valdosta. And it gets even better. For a limited time, when you purchase your cart at TNT Supercenter, you'll receive huge discounts, up to 30% off on all your accessories. We're talking major discounts on wheels, tires, lifts, seats, you name it, on everything you'll need to customize and personalize your new golf cart. TNT Supercenter has new carts, pre-owned carts, club car and Yamaha carts, even Star EV carts. And when you buy today at TNT Supercenter, they will deliver it for free within a 50-mile radius of Thomasville. Are you listening, Valdosta? Did you hear me, Tallahassee? Over 150 carts in stock with free delivery and huge discounts on accessories. Only at TNT Supercenter, US 19 South, next to the Dairy Queen in Thomasville. View inventory and pricing at TNTSupercenter.com. TNT.
Might I suggest the chicken taco salad from Banditos Burritos, my friend?
Don't just listen to The Jeff Cameron Show. Watch it live. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Live weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Head to ESPNTallahassee.com today to watch live or catch up on demand. The Jeff Cameron Show Streamcast. Brought to you by Nice Tire and Auto, your trusted Goodyear dealer. 574-4100. And presented by TNT Supercenter in Thomasville, Georgia. And Franklin Spring Creek Ford.
Here's a list of reasons why AT&T Prepaid is the perfect holiday gift, according to Marshall and Viv.
When you switch to AT&T Prepaid, you get a new ZTE Maven 3 smartphone for free.
And when you switch to AT&T Prepaid, you get a new ZTE Maven 3 smartphone for free.
I said that.
Happy holidays?
AT&T Prepaid has no annual contracts.
It's going on my holiday list for sure.
And AT&T's reliable network.
The AT&T network.
There's no hidden fees.
No credit checks.
No compromises.
No strings attached.
AT&T Prepaid has plans for people who like great deals.
Plans for people who love gift giving.
Flexibility.
Reliability.
All the abilities.
AT&T Prepaid is for people in places where it snows a lot, like Syracuse.
And plans for people in places where it snows not a lot, like Miami.
I love snow.
That makes one of us.
The list is long.
Really long.
This holiday season, switch to AT&T Prepaid to get a new ZTE Maven 3 smartphone for free. And all the advantages of AT&T's reliable network with no compromises. In stores or at att.com/prepaid.
Limited time offer available at participating AT&T stores. Requires new line of service $45 $65 plan and autopay. Reliable network claim per third-party sources. Fees, coverage, and other restrictions apply.
Can't decide between fresh steak, seafood, or wings? Well, Miller's Ale House on Appalachia Parkway has it all. From center-cut sirloin and original pastas to fresh salads and favorites like Miller's Signature Zingers, tossed in your favorite sauce. Miller's Ale House has a full-service bar featuring more than 75 beers, plus wine and liquors. Bring the family to watch the big game inside or on their covered patio on one of over 60 HD TVs. However you come to relax, you will have a good time and great food at Miller's Ale House on Appalachia Parkway.
You're locked in with the Jeff Cameron Show on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Cameron Show 97.9 ESPN Radio. Could be a very busy day. For now, it's a certainly interesting one on the program as we continue to discuss the ongoing saga as to whether or not Jimbo Fisher, head coach at Florida State University, will be here to coach the final game in his career at Florida State before taking in the Texas A&M job, or, in fact, will he remain on here as the head coach into this weekend and moving forward to the bowl game and into the next year, or will that be likely a different coaching candidate? For more on that, we bring in Gene Williams, warchant.com, founder and administrator. Hello, Gene. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Jeffrey. Doing great. Like just talking to Tom, a lot of caffeine, a lot of adrenaline these last 2 or 3 days.
Sure, man. Phone never stops. And I know we talk to a lot of similar people and try to get as much confirmation as possible, and there's only so much people can really say on the record right now. You've got a story up at warchant.com that cites both Willie Taggart, who I've mentioned on the show for some time now, but also a new candidate here potentially, and it interests me very much, in Justin Fuente, the head coach at Virginia Tech. I guess let me start with this. Certainly, we would say that time is of the essence, and for those that don't know, let's get some backdrop on exactly why that is. It is the first ever early signing period for college football, and it takes place on December the 20th. So give us a backstop on that, and let's talk a little bit about how quickly this might happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something they pushed for a while, the early signing period, and they finally got it this time, which I still think the date is odd to put it in late December. I think you would want to do it maybe in August before these kids start their senior season, but whatever. So the bottom line is there is an early signing period. So if there is a change, and it sure looks like there's going to be a change, the new head coach will have an extremely small window to try to secure the guys currently committed to Florida State and bring in some other guys, because at this point you can't delay, because you wait a week or two to hire that coach, that window is going to pass, and you're already basically conceding that first class is going to be a disaster. So it is absolutely essential, even more so than any other year, that you have a stable coaching staff in place well before then. And the good news is this whole month is going to be open for recruiting. It wasn't before. So whoever comes in with his staff, boy, they need to hit the ball rolling right off the bat and visit these kids and have them in and get to work right away.
All right. So at the top of that answer, you said certainly looks like there will most likely be a change. That's the word I continue to get. I'm sure your sources have said the same. What's the likelihood Jimbo Fisher announces that he's leaving before Saturday's game?
You know, the whole thing out there is that, and I don't, obviously not very familiar with Texas law, that whole day to wait the 72 hours for the Board of Regents to meet, and they have to approve this contract. What we don't know is, are they going to push for him to sign it almost immediately? If they do, it's not going to, as you pointed out, it's not going to stay hidden. It's going to get out that he signed this agreement. I don't know, maybe legal he can't even sign it while he's still under contract at FSU, at least till he finishes, and then stay on. I don't know how that's going to work. I know he wants to stay on and coach that game. He wants to do the final regular season with his players to finish this thing out. It's going to become, assuming we know either he's all set to sign it or has signed it on Thursday or Friday, it's going to become very awkward. You brought up and I brought up yesterday about having the players vote on it. I just think it could be a really uncomfortable environment for the players and for the fans and everybody if Jimbo Fisher's on that sideline on Saturday, and we all know he's headed to Texas A&M. So I wouldn't want to be in John Thrasher's shoes. He's going to make some very difficult decisions here in the next couple of days on how to handle this. But, yeah, like you, those percentages are pretty high, and they keep getting higher as every hour goes by. I mean, I would say the odds of him staying at Florida State at this point, the best way to categorize it, are probably slim.
If he signs that deal, or if he's pressed to sign that deal with Texas A&M, I'm not a lawyer, certainly not a contract lawyer. I have no idea what the rules are with this. But if he signs the deal to be the next head coach at Texas A&M, I don't know how he could coach here at Florida State on Saturday. It would seem
unless they let him, unless they post-dated the contract or did something and let him go ahead and coach through. Again, that's something that has to be worked out with Fisher and President Thrasher. But again, I almost get the feeling, and you talk to people, Jeff, whether it's athletics or Booster or whatever, I think the prevailing feeling is now they don't want him around anymore, assuming this plays out the way it looks like it is. So I think the popular decision would be to not let him coach that game, even though he wants to. Pure
speculation and just kind of looking ahead. It is a very interesting set of circumstances we find ourselves in. And if you're looking at it solely as a proponent and somebody who supports and loves the university, and you're looking out for Florida State, is there any way, in your opinion, just as the way this is played out, that he could come back? I mean, I know legally, he's under contract. He doesn't have to go to Texas A&M if he doesn't want to, but I have been saying as this goes on and with each passing hour that it would almost be an untenable situation. Could you imagine now with what's happened and all that's led up to this point, that he is our head coach going into next season? It would be a very odd set of circumstances, I would think.
It would be, odd. It would be crazy, frankly, because now you've specifically got people, we've heard stuff off the record, complaints, but now you got people actually going on the record, kind of throwing him under the bus a little bit. That would be really odd, especially because he has to work with these people, and, the day-to-day, whether it's athletics or boosters, these are people he interacts with every day that he needs things done. He has to do it, and obviously whatever relationship they had, maybe it wasn't the best going into this year. It's definitely gotten strained now. It's not very healthy the way things are right now. It'd be extremely awkward. So that's one of the more reasons I think he's almost gotten himself pinned into a corner, that he almost has to take the A&M job, even if he's having second thoughts at this point. But you're right. Legally, there's nothing. He could not sign that contract, or something could happen. He could come back, and there's probably nothing FSU could do, because he's under contract for a lot more, and they're certainly not going to fire him when there's a $38 million buyout.
Yeah, that's a weird set of circumstances. A guy that would be coming back, and the people that he'd be working with having publicly feuded and said some things that you can't take back. Well, also, I would ask you this. I mentioned Fuente's name just a moment ago. I had heard Taggart several times in the last few weeks. Had not heard Fuente's name at Virginia Tech, who is very well thought of, and I had the pleasure of interviewing the last couple of years as he came on board in the ACC. I'm kind of curious. I guess, can you tell us more about how his name came up? Maybe not. Obviously, you're not going to reveal your source, but that is an interesting time for both these coaches, who have to be very careful at their respective institutions, as well as not to sully the relationship with them.
Right. This is as we have on War Chant. We kind of got wind of a little kind of informal committee going on right now, and it's all the people you would expect. It's President Thrasher, it's the Board of Trustees Chair Edward Burr, and Stan Wilcox, the Director of Athletics, kind of getting involved. And first of all, I want to say hats off to them. I think it's very prudent of them to be proactive in this situation and not sitting around and waiting. We talked about time of the essence, not only for recruiting, but as you pointed out, Jeff, Oregon's pushing right now for Willie Taggart to sign a new deal. So, I mean, he's not going to wait around for FSU to pussyfoot here for a week or two. So you have to get on this now, and that's one thing they've done. So, yeah, I've heard from now, and this is not just throwing names out. I've heard now from two separate independent sources that these are the two guys they're primarily focused on. Obviously, one of them is the coach of the year last year and is, a bowl win away from having back-to-back 10-win seasons at Virginia Tech. And you've talked to him. I've talked to him. Really impressive guy. He knows his X's and O's, and think he would represent the university well. And, of course, Willie Taggart, really interesting guy, has all the Florida ties, could actually recruit at USF, which is not an easy thing to do, and, brought them up from nowhere to be a 10-win team before Oregon hired him. And I'll tell you, Jeff, he's one of the best recruiters I've seen.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 4-star Florida kids committed to go all the way to Oregon.
Well, one of them is a receiver out of Tampa. Yeah.
One of them might be the best receiver in the state, and I got to see him at the camp in Prescott. I've already heard whispers that kid would flip in a New York Minute where Taggart were to be hired by Florida State. And I've also heard that it might reopen the negotiation with Mr. Justin Fields. You might be able to get him on campus as well with Willie Taggart here. So a lot of intriguing stuff recruiting-wise if you can get Taggart here. So in my opinion, 2 great candidates. And I don't honestly know the interest level from Justin Fuente. I do know everything I hear that Willie Taggart is very interested in the Florida State position and returning to Florida. So it seems like either way, if they can get one of those 2 guys, you kind of say, well, Jimbo Fisher did a lot, but, man, I think FSU would be in really good shape with either one of those 2.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Willie Taggart played quarterback at Manatee High School in Florida, and is a guy that grew up in Florida and really has great connections, in particular in the Tampa area, and is extremely well thought of. He was on Stanford's staff with Harbaugh. He's a really well thought of coach. He's just 41 years old. So I think instantly you'd see this uptick in recruiting within the state, which is already good, but really it would be maintained and maybe even improved upon in certain areas. And then, of course, we all respect and love what we've read and heard from Justin Fuente and seen what he's accomplished. So 2 great candidates right off the bat. We knew that if rumor began that this job was truly going to be open, that names would begin to trickle in for us. As some of which you wouldn't expect. And Fuente's one of those already because he's only been at Virginia Tech now through his 2nd year. Mm-hmm. But this is such a good job. I imagine that's not the end of it. There might be an expressed interest from several big-name coaches or guys that are well thought of that currently have good jobs, just not as good as Florida State.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially since it's becoming well-known. And all it takes is a call to, I guess 90% of them probably have Jimmy Sexton as their agent. It takes one phone call to old Jimmy and say, hey, throw me into the hat as well. And I hear that, I believe that this FSU, again, informal committee, whatever you want to call it, group, is communicating with the people that make those decisions, the Jimmy Sextons and those types of people. So, I'm sure they would find out quickly if there was another big-name coach. And I will throw out the whole thing, and I've had a dozen people ask me since we put up that story about Scott Frost, and I did hear there was some initial outliers put out there to gauge his interest. but they found out pretty quickly that he's Husker bound. So that's not in the cards. I know some fans. He's the hot name that people wanted that, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, I think he's off to Nebraska. We're hearing the same things, Gene. Very interesting as always. Appreciate that story up on warchant.com. I'll talk to you a little bit later, buddy.
Sounds good, Jeff. Take care.
Take care. Gene Williams, warchant.com. Yeah, here's the thing. Willie Taggart, it's amazing. You know how many people's eyebrows raised and ears perked up when they just heard Gene say that there's a good chance that Mr. Fields would suddenly have interest in perhaps reopening that recruitment and to make his way here. So far, Taggart at Oregon, when he's had his starting quarterback, is I think 5-1 with that starting quarterback. They're 7-5 on the whole right now. But you think back to him inheriting 2-10 and then turning that around so quickly, and what he did at USF, obviously what he did at Western Kentucky. It'd be interesting if he were to be the hire, Tom. 41. I mean, I've finally gotten to the point where I've been on the air so long, the coaches we're hiring are younger than me.
Oh, buddy.
And two. I would just say this again. He was at Stanford. He was at Western Kentucky, South Florida, now Oregon. But I'd want to be come Saturday is in that locker room in the post game with a recording device, because whatever he's going to do, you're going to know about at the very latest Saturday after the game. It's a noon game, mid-afternoon Saturday, folks. If you're sitting here wringing your hands saying, "Well, this is really getting old in a hurry. What's the story here?" The latest that you'll have to wait would be Saturday after the game. He's got to tell his team something. He's got to tell the administration something. He's got to tell Texas A&M something.
Typically, I'm the guy who preaches, all right, it's all going to fall in front of you anyway. It's like the college football playoff. There are a lot of markets right now feeling urgency. Tuscaloosa.
This year might be a little bit different. It is awfully odd, but we know what that is.
If you're an Alabama fan, you just let the games play out, and that's going to give you a pretty damn fine indication of whether or not you got a chance or not for Sunday morning selection. In this case, though, the one thing that is of chief importance to me, no pun intended, is this decision going to take so long that an option is going to come off the table because we had to wait? And
right.
That's what I don't want.
Yeah, and you do fear because, again, I think if you're any of these coaches who may get mentioned in the next 24 hours as being a candidate for a job like Florida State, their respective schools are going to immediately feel threatened, immediately be concerned that they're going to lose their head coach. And this is not me being pompous, being a knoll, being arrogant. This is one of the premier jobs in the country. So unless you're at a job like Ohio State or Alabama or one of these other great jobs, better jobs, frankly, than Florida State, in many people's opinion, maybe not mine, but in many people's. Unless you're at one of those places, and let's say you're a fan or alumnus of one of these other schools, and your coach is being mentioned to perhaps be a candidate for the Florida State job, you ought to be nervous. And those schools are going to act accordingly. They're going to say, "Whoa, what's going on here, man? Hey, how about this pretty new contract? You want to sign that?"
Right, exactly. You're not assuming anything, though, because, again, in the last 2 hours, Sports Illustrated reports that Willie Taggart has an offer for $20 million, more than $20 million over 5 years, right in front of him.
Right.
They want to raise the ante right now.
Oregon immediately went to him and said, "Okay, we understand." Oh, they hear the whispers before anybody else hears the whispers because that agent is working the back channel deals.
Correct.
So Jimmy is, by the way, for the record, Willie Taggart is a Jimmy Sexton client. So
you don't say.
If you don't, yeah. So certainly that's out there. I haven't checked. I assume Fuente is, but I haven't checked. I don't know.
It's worth a look.
Given that his name came up, I'm going to guess that he is.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know.
I've got a line into Tallahassee, Justin, and it might come open.
Yeah. I mean.
You know how I know that? Yeah, my guy's down in Tallahassee, and he might be jetting himself.
Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Sorry, boys, I did not have time to pack.
We got this.
It's right here, guys.
We got this.
I thought I could handle it.
We got this.
Moving doesn't have to be a hassle. Call us first at 2 Men and a Truck. No matter the move, home or business, we'll make it a smooth one.
I forgot something.
We got this.
When you're in need of auto repairs, look no further than Nice Tire and Auto Service. Nice has been in business for 16 years with long-term, knowledgeable sales associates. They have the latest wheel balancing machine in the industry. And for passenger vehicles, they service AC, brakes, suspension, tune-ups, and much more. Never sit through a long wait. Nice Tire and Auto has 10 service bays to get you back on the road quickly. If you have tire problems, check out their large inventory with various Goodyear and Michelin tires. Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown.
Sorry, boys, I did not have time to pack.
We got this.
It's right here, guys.
We got this.
I thought I could handle it.